What's really interesting about cannibalism in our fiction today is how it penetrates the space for the reason we have this taboo itself. And it's not simply this, here we need this to form contemporary society or to be ethical and whatnot. The line of the taboo, the thing to transgress, is something we create ourselves. But we do this retroactively, mythically. So it's not that, people used to eat each other and then someone had to come along and say, hey, stop doing that in order for us to be who we are today. And then there are pockets of humanity that keep doing this that haven't made that move forward yet. Or neither are these sites of resistance to capitalism in contemporary life either. We retroactively look at ourselves and explain ourselves away with myth. The main myths here are cannibalism and prohibition against cannibalism and the Oedipus myth. These aren't arbitrary and they aren't historical. There's no point in history where this sets who we are. We realize this retroactively. We look at our current structure and realize we are on this side of things already. These rules are our own. We set them ourselves into reality. It's not arbitrary. There are psychic reasons for the Oedipal myth and the prohibition of cannibalism. If you want to get into this personally, you need to read Totem and Taboo and Moses and Monotheism, and they're easy reads, but they do require some explaining, and I'm not going to make the whole video about that. But the point is, we realize this prohibition is us. There's no other side to explore to get to the fullness of reality or this mythic sense of wholeness or whatnot. Primitive cultures who do practice cannibalism, either today or in the past, there's no truth to that. There's no wisdom or experience to be had there. The truth to it is set by the prohibition itself, the line that we set in reality. So if you're on the other side of it and you're experiencing the real thing, the way in which you feel like you're experiencing the real thing is only there because of that prohibition. You're reifying the prohibition itself. You're upholding it. So that's why direct transgression is a dead end. That's why Bataille and Sade and Lautreamont, with their exploration of breaking the rules and seeing what we can build, it just upholds the rules all the more. The point is, we set those rules ourselves. It's much more interesting when you look at it that way, and that's what these examples in cannibalistic fiction are starting to get into. So the territory of eyes are the best part gets into a particular mode of cannibalism. So we're not eating everything, we're focused on the eyes, but there's truth to the cannibalism of the eyes because this is a partial object. Cannibalism requires turning a body into a partial object, breaking it into pieces. And how do we psychically engage that? The same thing happens in love. We focus on our bodies partially. So the liberatory territory is falling in with this Eraserhead-esque, focus on the eyes and being carried away by that, how we're psychically carried away by that. That's what's interesting about eyes are the best part. Eraserhead is a hallmark example. We have obviously the dinner eating scene with the moving, grotesque, squirting chicken, but the baby itself is also like a chicken, and when we make the violent cut and cut into it, there's an explosion of floating things, but that also takes us to the love fantasy of the lady in the radiator. So it's transporting to us. It gets us somewhere. So that's where the radicality of that violence, the cannibalistic-ish act, lies. With the Fallout TV show, this is more in this ethical territory that we're uncomfortably penetrating, where we are taking the stance with the ghoul and not treating the act as something that's necessary, but something we enjoy. It's very clear that it is not simple. It is not simple necessity that the ghoul unalives his friend and eats him. He does so with full pleasure, and so tarrying with that pleasure while falling into his story and struggling with it is the point. There's a monstrosity there. This is a Frankenstein situation. Frankenstein is a subjectivized monster who is a monster. It's completely incorrect to view him as someone who's misunderstood and has to be what he is, even if there are all of these outside pressures attacking him. He also does a monstrous act of his own volition. There's no excuse for it. He's fully responsible for it. It's the same with the ghoul. We have to tarry with his monstrosity, but there's this opening up that gets to the excitement the ghoul has with the cannibalistic act, that we, in some form, fall in with ourselves, and we don't stand against it the way we do in Soylent Green or in The Road, where the family almost gets trapped by cannibals and falls away and escapes. And the interesting thing of that scene is how we don't save the people who are trapped there. That's the shift that we have to struggle with a bit as readers. So what I do think is changing is as our culture opens more and more to violence itself, we are opened up to the violence of cannibalism and not just standing against it ethically the way a Final Girl does against the slasher or the survivor against the zombie. So it's not just an existential threat. There is this uncomfortable being stuck to the enjoyment of cannibalism in certain modes of fiction that we are carefully working into without treating it in this Kantian, oh, we're really enjoying cannibalism now. It's not this reified thing the way it's engaging it. It's engaging the way we're psychically against cannibalism and staying in that murky in-between territory. So it's very delicate. We have to not fall into cannibalism, but there is this in-between space that these works are getting to that gets into why we have this prohibition in the first place.